What's cracking, people? Angelic Mayhem here. So, welcome to the next video in my Path of Exile series. And in this video, we're talking totems. So, what is a totem? Well, basically, it's a rock that pops out of the ground, and it does one of 8 different things on your behalf. Now, there are enemy totems as well. They just basically replicate the various things that different enemies can do. So, I'm not going to talk about those here. I'm sure you'll experience them along the way. And basically, what you want to do is simply kite away the bad guys from the totem. Then they are no longer under its spell, and you can wipe them out as you see fit. But in terms of the totems that you can use, there are 8 different types. The first one is a decoy totem, and basically what you do is you throw it out. It doesn't actually do anything except aggro all of the creeps in the area. They come over and attack it instead of you, okay? And as that totem levels up, it actually becomes bigger and better and can last a lot longer and take more damage. Next one up is devouring. Basically, it is a totem that if there are bodies in the area, it will begin to eat all of the bodies and then give you the mana and the health that, you know, based on how many bodies that it eats. And basically what happens is it waits until you are injured, and then it will begin consuming them. Obviously, that's bad for those of you who like to use, like zombies, because, you know, it's eating up the bodies that, you know, you would normally be using to create your zombies. So that is one consideration for that particular totem. Flame totem, basically is the one that's here, and as, let me see if I can hunt down an enemy. Basically, it just shoots out walls of flame at each individual enemy. So you can see it actually will nuke that person with fire. Now, if there's somebody standing in between the totem and that person that it's aiming at, that person will not be burned, okay? The in-between will not be burned. So it only burns one person at a time. Let's head back over here so that we're not assaulted. Rejuvenating totems, basically, I have one of those too. Looks like that, and basically when you stand next to it, just continually heals you, plus all of your minions and anybody else who's in the area who belongs to you. Shockwave is a totem that I own, and basically, let me see if I can aggro some people again. It has a knockback ability, and it also does damage, not as much as the fire totem, but when used in conjunction, it can become really, really good. There we go. Especially at the beginning when you are a very weak person, if you throw out a shockwave totem, you can actually begin knocking back guys while you're peppering them, let's say with like a bow and arrow or something like that. So that's a really good way to, you know, kind of do some farming with it. Next up is the range attack totem. Basically, if you are using a bow and arrow and you toss out this particular totem, then it will also shoot out in the same way that you are shooting out. Whatever is attached to your bow will then be used also by the ranged attack totem. So what you're basically doing there is creating a replica of yourself that just stands in place and continually throws out projectiles. After that, second to last is the searing totem, and basically what happens is when you throw out one totem and you throw out a second totem, they create a laser beam between them, and then as you wander around, the laser beam will also attach to you, and any enemy that touches the laser beam receives a massive amount of damage. And finally, there's a spell totem, and basically when you throw that out, it will, depending upon what spells you have attached to it in your inventory, okay, so let's say that this was your spell totem, okay, if there was a spell here and a spell here, it would be able to use both of those spells as it saw fit. So, you know, like if you had Ice Nova, then when you throw the totem out, it would create an Ice Nova, you know, AoE in that area. Which is actually pretty interesting, but I don't have one here to show you in this particular build, so you'll have to use your imagination. Let's talk about the passive tree. Basically, your totems are going to be, let's say, headquartered in your Templar and Marauder areas, okay? There is one down here in the Duelist. It's a very small totem thing right here that just adds, like, some casting speed. So, especially if you get, like, a decoy totem, that's really great with the Duelist because then the decoy can aggro everyone, and you can go to town on them with your sword or whatever you're using. But up here, you can see I've actually picked up most of them. This is Shamanistic Fury. This is probably the second best one because it does a huge boost to the totem damage. Down here, there's probably the best one, which is Totemic Mastery, because that does both damage and life, and there's a bunch of other ones in this ring that, you know, increase both as well. Out here, there's this ring right here, and then just past it is the one and only keystone that has anything to do with totems. And this one is very interesting, okay? So let me explain to you what happens. It allows you to bring forth 2 totems, okay? But as a result, you can't use any of your weapons or anything like that anymore. All right, so you're just using totems, and actually you can cast like minions and things like that, so you can do damage in other ways, but there are very specific ways, you know, but for the most part, you know, if you've been using like an AoE magic spell or something like that, all that's out the window, okay? So you're giving up all of that other stuff, but if you have leveled up all of your totems, you can actually use this to great effect, okay? I would suggest to you that it is one of the fastest and easiest ways to beat the game. In addition to that, there is one other, so from here, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Down here, more closely on the other end of the Marauder, there is a totem area here that includes ironwood, and ironwood is a really good thing to pick up, so that's actually going to be, my next 4 are going to be to get down here, and then the 4 after that will be to pick that up. There we go. So basically, again, you can only use 1 totem unless you actually pick up Ancestral Bonds, which I have. I'm going to show you how that works. Basically, you throw out 2 of them, and they just do all kinds of massive damage. My fire totem is at like level 3 or 4 at the moment, and to tell you that this is great for boss men is an understatement, because if you have, especially if there's only the boss man on the screen, he will focus on trying to take out the totems or whatever, and then, you know, you can just basically just keep plopping up a totem every time he wipes one out, put up a second one. I would highly recommend, like if you have a fire, if you get the fire totem, I would recommend seriously considering going this route, because the fire totem does 200 damage per second per totem, okay, at this level. So you're actually, now that's without any buffs, okay? So that's 400 DPS just with totems. I mean, that's really pretty incredible. And when one drops, you just pull out another one, and it's continuous, and it never gets to a point, well, that was a little weird bug. But it never gets to a point where it's fatigued or whatever. Now, they only last for 15 seconds, and I will tell you that technically they count as a minion death, all right? So in the same way that, you know, if this guy comes up and he physically kills this one off, when it dies, it also, you know, when it expires just naturally because of the number of the time, then it also counts as a death. Now, the only reason why you would care about that is because there is one piece of unique armor that actually adds a 3rd totem if you are willing to go there. However, because of the totem death situation, what happens is every time one of your totems dies, you end up cursed if you're using that particular armor, all right? I personally would never actually use that armor because 2 is perfectly fine. You can beat the game with 2. And, you know, this is, strategically speaking, you know, plenty. Also, so I have 2 fires out here. I'm going to throw out this shockwave one. And what happens there is that the shockwave prevents them from getting in here. So if you plant them right next to each other, that's a really great way to kind of create this little zone that you can stand here and nobody could ever touch you, all right, for, you know, 15 seconds. So a 2-toting Totem Templar is probably one of the best builds that I've seen so far. I haven't actually tried it with the Marauder because the number of extra skill points that are required to actually, you know, get all of the totem stuff, I think would be beyond, you know, like trying to win the game. I don't know, because like a Marauder is really focused on doing a lot of DPS damage, and this guy, you know, I started him off as an AoE guy, and then eventually after I got the totems, I was like, okay. But I already had all the magic stuff that was attached to that, so it allows me to throw out these 2 totems with very little mana spent. If you notice, 1 and 2, because I have, here's my passive tree, I have all this in here from the Templar, and that allows me to throw out many totems with very little sacrifice to my mana. Now you'll notice I cannot hit him because I have Ancestral Bonds. But if I throw this out, then it just nukes him. Well, anyway, I'm on my way to the finish line, and in terms of whether this is for you or not, I would suggest to you that Ancestral Bonds is a major commitment because you have to give up all of the magic and weapons that you have been using up until now. I mean, they're still equipped, obviously, but they are just there to buff my armor and to, things like that. What they don't do is allow me to actually do any DPS damage. Oh, a prismatic ring, that's sweet. A good way to do this is plop down your towers, right? Go out, kite the bad guys back. Also, I have minions, so it's a group effort sort of situation. But especially with Ancestral Bonds, you are going to have to say, you know what? I'm getting rid of everything that I've had up until now, and I'm just going to do totems. And not everyone is willing to do that because it's a big change. If you have just one totem, then it's just a complement to your regular, your regular way of doing things. And especially like these fire totems, they work really well on their own. Not so much that you can't go without something else, but 2 fire totems can just, destroy everything. It's absolutely amazing. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click the like button, share it with your friends, or subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this in the future. I'm Angelic Mayhem, and I will see you next time.